Hi, I'm Sam Riley and I'm going to talk you through 5 of my favourite films. The kind of movies I watch when I'm at home are usually movies I've already seen before. I'm not very adventurous when I'm ill. I like to see something where I know exactly what's coming. I watched the Kill Bill movies again recently that I hadn't seen for a long time. I realized I'd seen them last in the cinema, or comedies as well. Action movies, they don't really go together with being ill, but I watched Hard Boiled again. My brother and I must have watched that 100 times. It's a John Woo, Hong Kong classic, slow motion. Doves entering the screen and a lot of violence. I think for a while that had the highest body count of any film. I think John Woo's English language films, Broken Arrow, that was good. I watched that with my dad in the cinema. Face Off's great because that was really what I love. One of the things I love about Nick Cage is that he really pushes the boat out with, I read an interview with him, he was saying that he did a short movie once where he had to do like very extreme overacting, and then he thought to himself, what if I did what I did in this short movie in a $200 million budget movie? And that's Face Off. I'm kind of, I think amongst a lot of my colleagues, it's kind of surprising how many actors, young actors, talking about here, who don't watch a lot of old movies. But I grew up, partly because it was pre-streaming and things, they were repeating a lot of old movies on the BBC in England. You got to see a lot of classics. My dad would let me and my brother stay up late if we were watching something good, which would mean with Steve McQueen or Gene Hackman or whatever. I mean, the first time I saw Gene Hackman was Superman, but then my dad was like, you got to see The French Connection or whatever. Or learn all of these great actors through British war movies. They played a lot of war movies in England, very heroic shit. But there were always great actors doing their action bit, Richard Burton in Where Eagles Dare. And Americans love to have the British as the, there are some theories about this. I think that some of them are intimidated by the accent. And then the British accent can make idiots seem intelligent, like Boris Johnson. So it fools a lot of American people into, they find it easy to imagine us as evil, which has made good careers for a lot of British actors. I've worked with Angie, she's known to her friends. I try not to be too, you can always learn something, especially if you're wanting to make films, which I am, from a bad movie too. And I've been in a couple myself, if I'm completely honest. Here's my first pick, which is a bit of a cheat, which has a lot of movies in it. I was at when I was doing French at school, I was in the bottom set, which is for the people with absolutely no talent for language whatsoever. And at some point our teacher gave up on us, but then said, the one thing I'm gonna do for you is I'm gonna introduce you to French cinema. And the very first film, as far as I can remember, that he played us was À bout de souffle. You can help me with it, my pronunciation's bad. Breathless, außer Atem. And I think I started smoking about a week and a half after watching this film. I don't think I'd ever seen a foreign language movie before until this point. And I was completely blown away by how obviously old it was, but how incredibly modern everything about it was.
Ich möchte, dass wir sind wie Romeo und Julia.
Oh la la.
Du lügst, mein lieber Michel.
Ich bin ein guter Boxer.
The cutting, the editing, the performance of Belmondo is still for me one of the most relaxed cool on-camera performances you've ever seen. He's beautiful. He's in his funny-looking way. He looks cool. He's just amazing. And this French teacher went on then to play us Le Samurai by Melville, which is one of my favorite movies with Alain Delon, which also didn't help with the cigarette smoking problem, only encouraged it. It really opened my mind to international cinema, I would say, which I'm very grateful to him, Mr. Broughton. Yeah, Peaky Blinders. Yeah, I worked with, I'm name dropping, but that's okay, that's why I'm here. I worked with Kill on a film, and I asked him about the smoking. And it was also herbal cigarettes. And when we first started making movies, you could smoke real cigarettes, but obviously that's not nice for the crew. He had enough of that. I mean, I had to smoke a lot. I did a film called Kranko in German last year where I also had to chain smoke. But they weren't herbal cigarettes because thanks to Brexit, they got stuck in customs. So I ended up smoking Gauloise all day long. But I'm a method actor, so. This is in film the film next door to it is Lara, which is by a movie by my friend Jan-Ole Gerster, who I was lucky enough to make a film called Islands with last year, available on DVD. Not on the shelf here. He's just an incredible filmmaker. I loved Lara. I love Corinna Harfouch. I hope I'm saying that right, Corinna. I know her from Downfall, which is starred my wife, Alexandra Maria Lara. And Islands was really one of my, of all the films I've made, one of my absolute favorites. For the role, I mean, it was just a dream job. I got to learn to play tennis, I had to smoke. But it's a really great film. It's a grown-up film. It reminds me of the films that my dad, the 70s movies where you didn't have to explain everything. There wasn't some Netflix producer saying, the audience might understand this, can you say it 4 times? Problem is that if you do then put that sort of dialogue in, people have the space to then look at their phones because they know that they're going to get a recap, I think it is sad. I mean, I was asked in regards to Islands recently, a lot of journalists, they say it must be difficult doing all of these scenes where there's no dialogue. And you think that actually the hardest scenes to shoot as an actor are expositional dialogue, which is, for those who don't know, it's that when you explain everything that's either just happened or about to happen to a character that you would never say that to, like talking to your brother about how your parents died or something, like you just don't do that. Yeah. But let's do it because the audience might have forgotten. Do you remember that time when Dad had the accident and ended up in a wheelchair? Oh yeah, I do. Funny you should mention it, because here he comes. Here's my second pick. Gefährliche Brandung. This is a classic example of an unnecessary title change in Germany. Point Break. It's a classic from my teenage years. My brother and I used to go to the video shop in the village. We were looking for action just about all the time. We had a grandma who didn't understand the FSK system, which is very cool. So 18 certificates were no problem with Granny. And I think this is only a 15, but this was kind of, as far as I remember, no, that's not true. Speed and this, where Keanu went from being Bill in Bill and Ted, if he's not Ted, to being really one of the coolest action heroes, I reckon.
Die Ex-Präsidenten sind alle Surfer. Das ist eine in sich geschlossene Gruppe. Du musst surfen lernen, wie sie denken und du musst ihre Sprache verstehen.
But I just love everything about this film. I watched it again recently and it still holds up. Catherine Bigelow, brilliant director. The story, there's so many iconic lines of dialogue. And Keanu has this bizarre way of saying stuff, sort of bad lines, basically, in a way that no one else could say it. Where for a second you think, did he just say that line really badly, or is it the coolest way anyone could ever say that line? Never. Here's my next one. This is Apocalypse Now. This is the final cut. There's a redux, there's a final cut. I reckon they're all great. I think This was another movie that my dad let me stay up to watch, and I'd never seen anything like it. I just could not comprehend how the hell you could make a film like this. And that was back in the day where they were still making big films on film.
Ich liebe den Geruch von Napalm am Morgen.
I mean, part of the story is also the incredible, nightmare of making it, which was described as being at war. It's beautiful. It's tragic. It's mysterious. There's amazing performances in it. I remember I was in an internat at school, which is kind of like Hogwarts, but without the magic. And me and my friend were watching, we just watched this again. We'd like snuck down to watch it on the TV that we were allowed to watch. And then we had the end, By the Doors, which is the intro, this famous intro where the fan's going overhead and he's drinking and he's saying, Saigon, shit, still only in Saigon. And we were saying this over and over and drinking mouthwash in the dormitory together, hoping to get a kick from it. But I don't know where that memory just unlocked from looking at the cover. I mean, there's also an amazing documentary by his wife called Heart of Darkness about the making of it, which is almost as incredible as the whole thing. I can segue into the next film with this, actually. Dennis Hopper plays a crazy journalist in this film. He never learned his lines. Used to drive Coppola up the wall. And when he finished shooting this, he got a plane to Germany. Where are you? Where's... and landed to shoot The American Friend, which is that one. That's a Wim Wenders movie with Bruno Ganz. And apparently he arrived in a total state. As you would if you'd just been shooting Apocalypse Now. When they arrived, Bruno Ganz was really nervous about the fact that he was working in English and was very well prepared and everything, and Hopper was a nightmare, not responding properly to the lines and everything. It led to a fight on set. And Wenders sent them home to get drunk with one another, which they did. They arrived the next day on set. They were not in good enough shape to work, but after that, they were buddies. And The American Friend, I mean, I love Wim Wenders. I thought I should pick a German filmmaker. And The American Friend is not one of his most famous ones, but I love film noir. I love neo-noir. That's like not from the classic era of film noir. I love Patricia Highsmith. It looks beautiful. Robbie Muller was the DOP, I think. It's just one of my favorites. That's a comfort film. That's one I watch again and again, although it's a weird one to watch. And all of the villains in it are played by great American directors, I think. And here's my final pick. I think I watched this after I was probably about 17 or 18, I think. And I just loved it. I mean, it's not the only Fellini film that I really enjoy, but I think this is one of the best films ever made. It's one of the best films ever made about filmmaking, about creativity, about imagination, man's love of woman. There are some of the most beautiful and talented actresses of all time in this movie. And Marcello, who is also like, who were we talking about earlier? Belmondo, different, but also just one of the most elegant, cool screen actors of all time.
Perché insomma mi creda, io andare avanti così non ce la faccio più, questo è un manicomio.
The imagination in this is just so incredible, and it doesn't age because our imaginations are all linked forever. I've probably said enough. Okay, everybody, that was my 5 picks. take your pick. Hope I didn't waffle on. Go to the cinema. Take a friend. Peace.